This is chapter 4 of Hack the Law of Attraction, the Quantum Code to the Mastermind System. The name of this chapter, Learn to Operate at a Quantum Level, Part 2. This chapter will precisely describe the current understanding of the behavior of particles at a quantum level. I encourage you to go online and research various documentaries that describe the laws of quantum physics. Specifically, find one that highlights clearly how the double slit experiment gave way to these stupendous understandings. Please do this because video illustrations will do much more for you than any variation of words I can put here. Please be aware that you will initially not understand and become confused and frustrated. Do not give up. The mind will open up to new concepts as it explores new understandings over time intervals. Use the law of attraction to ask for a comprehensive understanding of these laws and how they relate to your creative ability. Force the universe to give you insights into how you can hack the law of attraction to work faster and better for you. These laws have been defined as the following 5 scientific concepts. Scientific concept number 1. Everything in the universe is energy, frequency, and vibration. It has been plainly stated empirically that everything in the universe is made of atoms. Molecules are a collection of atoms with electrons circulating a nucleus with protons and neutrons. And that those individual particles, electrons, protons, and neutrons, are made of other smaller particles of energy. As they continue to deconstruct the universe, it is observed that particles become infinitely smaller. This process is called quantization, thus the term quantum physics. It is the study of fundamental components of what is known as matter. It has been agreed by the scientific community that the universe is made of nothing but energy, frequencies, or vibrations. It is unanimous. Scientific concept number 2, quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement tells us, first and foremost, that particles that have been entangled or have interacted for an undetermined amount of time, although separated over an infinite distance, will communicate instantly. Let's consider and plainly state what we said before. In essence, particles exist in duality. They are particles in time and space, but more importantly and significantly, they also exist as wave frequencies, not relevant to space and time. The double slit experiment described that when particles of energy are not being observed or measured, they are, in essence, waves of energy not defined by time or space. They are waves of energy of infinite possibility. Why or how? Scientists to this day don't know. But the double slit experiment demonstrated unequivocally observable evidence that when the photon was shot toward the sheet of metal with 2 holes, it went through both holes on each side simultaneously and both holes individually at separate times. It went through the left slit, right slit, and both simultaneously. The photon did all 3 actions in the same instant. How and why can one particle of energy do 3 things at the same moment in time? Again, there's yet to be an explanation demonstrated as to the mechanics. Since the double slit experiment showed that the photon could do all 3 movements, going through each hole individually and going through each hole simultaneously, demonstrates that particles are In essence, everywhere and nowhere. The conclusion then proves that electrons are omnipresent, everywhere, at every instant in time and space. It also showed that they are only defined in time and space when chosen to be observed. Albert Einstein said he didn't like the implications of quantum physics because he wanted to believe that the moon was still there even though he was not looking at it. They are particles of infinite possibility because they are defined in time and space when observed, but they are anywhere, nowhere, and everywhere simultaneously when not observed. This phenomenon gives way to quantum entanglement. This quantum law describes that particles are in a symphony of immediate communication. It proved that a particle defined explicitly in space and time can affect another particle somewhere else or anywhere else in time and space in an instant, no matter the distance. They could be an inch away from each other, or they could be as far away as the other side of the galaxy, or trillions of light years away. This law suggests that information can travel instantaneously regardless of distance. And this is because one particle can be in one place in an infinite number of positions simultaneously. These particles of energy have been observed doing all kinds of things, from becoming invisible, from being in two places at the same time, and even traveling back in time and changing the past. This concept may sound bizarre, but the double slit experiment proves that at a quantum level, the particles behave as such. This principle of physics also suggests that we may live in a holographic universe and that a solid universe is only an illusion. Scientific concept number 3, the uncertainty principle with quantum tunneling. The uncertainty principle, plainly stated, is this. Since particles of energy exist in a paradoxical duality, it is impossible to know exactly where a particle is in time and space. This principle describes to us a strange paradox. We simply cannot know anything with absolute certainty. So because of the wave-like qualities of photons or particles of energy, they cannot be precisely located or pinpointed. Scientists can only say where the particle is most likely to be. Scientists are dealing with a paradox of just high and low probabilities of things existing in space and time. The paradox is that things are visible with our eyes, felt with our touch, and experienced as defined in time and space. But at a quantum level, things are not really there. Interestingly enough, scientists have experimented with this concept. They have taken particles and boxed them in, but they always seem to generate enough energy to escape or break out of the box before their position and speed have been determined. This concept is mind-blowing. How can that be possible? In a documentary on the uncertainty principle, scientists explain that, quote, nature will not allow its fundamental elements to be boxed in, end quote. This makes quantum tunneling a reality. English physicist Clifford Johnson also says, so because in the microscopic world, particles will interact with an entirely different set of rules, the uncertainty of the microscopic universe extends far beyond the location of particles. It applies to everything, including a particle's energy. This gives rise to an outstanding phenomenon called quantum tunneling. Frank Kuttner explains an example in this documentary. Quote, we all know that unless we give enough force to a moving object, let's say a ball hitting a wall, the ball will just bounce back. But if it is an electron against the wall and you do not throw it hard enough to go through the wall, it might go through anyway. We call that quantum tunneling. End quote. And this is from the documentary The Universe, Microscopic Universe by the History Channel by Louis C. Tarantino. Published in June 3rd, 2012. According to an explanation, the particle can borrow energy from the future to go through the wall. This is because the particle in waveform is not defined in time and space. Therefore, it is in both places simultaneously. It is behind the wall, but it was also already on the other side of the wall or barrier. It is on both sides of the wall at the same time, just like it was observed. It is on both sides of the wall at the same time, just like it was observed, that a photon will go through both slits simultaneously. These experiments and concepts may sound bizarre and unbelievable, so the reader should carefully observe the many illustrations readily available for progressive comprehension. It has been known that the mind will gradually grasp concepts as long as the new knowledge is repeated at different time intervals. A question then has risen among many scientists. Since we are made of particles, can our collective vibration be in two or an infinite number of places at once and go through barriers if we choose to do so? But let's move on to what your brain can do at a quantum level. Scientific concept number 4. Our brain is a transmitter and a receiver of energy, frequency, or vibration. We have examined that everything in the universe is energy, vibrates or resonates, or sends out frequencies simultaneously in all directions. We also learned that everything has its unique resonance or vibration rate based on its collective particle accumulation. We also suggested that we resonate or vibrate energy or frequencies, and as such, you send out a unique frequency in all directions, permeating all time and space. We also examined that all of these crazy scientific principles are proven true thanks to the double slit experiment, quantum entanglement, and quantum tunneling. These are the laws and rules of the crazy, mind-blowing world of quantum mechanics. It is a miracle in nature that we can learn and understand these concepts. Considering all these concepts helps us to conclude that our brain also has a unique blueprint, a unique collective vibrational energetic frequency. Let's also observe the idea that through our brains we think, feel, or emote, see, hear, taste, smell, touch, move, and operate. We live. We may have learned through science that since everything is energy, our brain interprets incoming inputs and outputs of vibrational energy. In essence, everything we experience is just electrical signals interpreted, translated, or decoded by our brain. It has been said by many reliable sources that thoughts are things. They have also expressed that thoughts also become things. Let's consider that nowadays instruments can measure the resonance of thoughts. So, like all things in the universe, thoughts can be measured or pinpoint in the different brain areas by picking up their frequencies. We can conclude that thoughts are also fundamental things. And as such, they are like all things. They are also energy vibrating at different frequency rates. Like photons, they are also in a state of duality. Thoughts exist in your brain, but like all things, thoughts exist in infinite places, just like photons do. Since, in the same manner, all particles can become entangled, affecting themselves and other particles simultaneously, thoughts are also entangled and affect themselves and other thoughts. One of the best science experiments ever done to prove this was done in Japan by Masaru Emoto. If the reader has not watched the documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know?, I suggest you watch it after reading this entire chapter. In that documentary, it was explained that thoughts in themselves and written words affect water's physical and molecular structure. Tanks of water were placed with specific words. Also, different types of music were played for the water. In another experiment, a control group was told to think particular thoughts or send out prayers to the water. The nature of the words, music, or prayers was either that of a positive nature or a negative nature. Afterward, Masaru Emoto drew samples of the experimented water. These water samples were then examined under a microscope, and it was found that once the water was frozen, the crystallization and molecular structure of the water changed. The positive energy outputs made the crystals form beautifully, while the negative outputs of vibration made the water crystals jag and deform. Here's the money question. Does this mean that our brain, or us as individual conscious beings, can not only influence but create physical matter or photons? Does this mean we can influence, create, and expand the perceivable physical universe? I am inclined to say yes due to empirical evidence, although they are just theories. But I am more inclined to say yes because some of the most influential people in the world to have ever existed testify. They include Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, and Nikola Tesla, the Prophet Jesus, among many more. These previous statements will continue to be validated throughout the book with other viable sources of spiritual and scientific knowledge, which may be quoted directly or indirectly. This includes people who, although not scientists, have real-life evidence and testified that this information is accurate. If you think about it, they are scientists since they took this information and developed a question in the form of a desired result in their personal lives. People have formed hypotheses based on desires or goals, tested these hypotheses through experimentation, and drew conclusions, and got powerful real-life evidence. Evidence is essential because experiments have to be able to be replicated. Therefore, success and results based on conclusive evidence can be and must be replicable. Therefore, success is attainable scientifically, whatever you decide to be in the observable universe and your reality. We can have what they have by doing what they did. We are coming to understandings and common denominators of success in connection to common denominators of action and reaction, for it is all based on laws of physics, specifically particle physics. We can have, be, and do everything we want, plain and simple, scientifically. The following scientific principle is mostly validated by spiritual references and beliefs of people who testify to its existence, but it also has scientific evidence. Scientific concept number 5, laws of magnetic attraction and friction. Through the study of particle physics, quantum physics has been able to reveal that there are laws that govern the universe and everything in it. In essence, the previous 4 concepts we have considered are all based on physical laws that are in effect, just like the law of gravity. They are all constants that are in effect in every moment of time and encompass all matter. Rules apply differently or change once we measure either the macroscopic universe or the microscopic universe of particle physics. A renowned scientist has explained the concept of string theory as a weird idea, but you will notice that it is as simple and obvious as the law of gravity and as pervasive as the air we breathe. In a Nova documentary, scientist Brian Greene explains that, quote, the basis for string theory is that particles are in a constant form of communication, like two baseball players throwing a baseball back and forth. In this instance, the two players symbolize particles of energy in constant duality, end quote. The ball thrown back and forth in the example represents a particle of force. An example given is electromagnetism. Some forces are more potent than others. We can illustrate this by examining birds or an airplane. How is it that these things can defy the law of gravity? Obviously, it is because much more powerful forces or laws are at work. These forces encompass the particles of a bird weighing just a few ounces or an airplane weighing tons. Certainly, the law of gravity does not go away, but it is superseded by a much more vital force, the law of lift. Think of a baby as he learns to lift himself and defy the law of gravity as he grows into a toddler. The baby will quickly learn to turn, sit, crawl, and walk. Where is the law of gravity keeping this little person tied to the floor as it did the first few months? Also, think of a weightlifter bench pressing 200 pounds to exercise his body. We can see that they are all defying the law of gravity and applying much stronger forces. Quote, string theory explains that the more of these messenger particles or photons that are exchanged between the two baseball players or particles, the stronger the magnetic attraction between particles. Scientists predicted that it is this exchange of messenger particles, photons, between particles that create what we feel as force. Experiments confirmed these predictions with the discovery of these messenger particles for electromagnetism, the strong force, and the weak force. End quote. By Brian Greene in the documentary The Fabric of the Cosmos, Universe or Multiverse. And this is a documentary by Nova PBS, published November 23, 2011. String theory gives ample circumstantial evidence proving that particles can powerfully attract when they communicate and are drawn to each other. The more they are alike and the more they share this shared attention. String theory is supporting evidence for the law of magnetic attraction. Similar frequencies of vibration or energy will attract because they are powerfully magnetized to each other. The opposite is true, for a particle's magnetic force can repel strongly. The Big Bang theory also suggests these observations. Scientists have explained that sometime after the singularity explosion, the universe kept expanding outwardly and thus cooled off. Expert scientists define singularity as the point in space and time where all the energy that makes up the universe is concentrated with all its potential physical laws. This single point in the universe is smaller than an atom size. How can the massive energy of our ever-expanding universe be something that can be crunched to a point smaller than the tip of a needle? How can the energy of a single point in the universe, smaller than an atom, become something that expands to the size of our observable universe? Are both questions essentially the same? Since this is true, then time and space are illusions. When the Big Bang occurred, particles lost energy and became more defined in time and space. At one point, hydrogen particles were produced in mass quantities, with one electron revolving around one proton. Hydrogen is the most basic element of energy in our visible universe. This is a scientific fact because all stars' mass is mostly hydrogen, and stars are massive in comparison to our little planet Earth. So hydrogen attracts itself. Water also attracts itself. We have learned that water molecules are one of our world's most basic known molecules. Water's polarity, or magnetism, is really strong. We can observe this when we take spilled water and see it move closer to other drops on a flat surface. So to simplify this concept, frequencies of energy alike in nature are drawn to each other. Whatever frequencies are being put out, those same frequencies are being magnetized to themselves. This concept has been explained before by many as basic ideas, such as quote unquote, you reap what you sow. What comes around goes around. What you put out comes back to you. And there's more happiness in giving than receiving, among others. Scientific concept number 6, quantum superposition. Quantum superposition sounds impossible and stupendous. Its implications and ramifications will sound mind-blowing, even more than quantum tunneling and quantum entanglement. This law has made scientists speculate heavily about the multiverse. They suggest that all decisions are made simultaneously, that superposition allows the perception of choice. Consider what a lower life form is programmed to do by instinct. Plants, in this instance, have been described as being able to efficiently process light, photons, or particles of light to create their food source and nourishment. They are a factory that recreates light into infinitely denser energies. According to classical physics, this is impossible. Why? Because the particles that compose plants are dense and defined in time and space. We can illustrate it like this. Imagine parallel steel beams placed a quarter-inch from each other. Imagine that we have a wall of billions of these beams placed in front of us from side to side in one line, from left to right. Then we observe that billions of these beams are placed in front of this wall and past the wall. Therefore, we observe that this structure is billions of steel beams wide and deep. Imagine that each successive steel beam wall is placed in front of the space that separates it from the first wall and down the line. The pattern continues with each division. Like a dense crowd with no discernible arrangement or alignment, we will have to maneuver our way in carefully without touching anyone to move through the crowd. Imagine that there are $1 billion for the taking in the middle of this massive structure of steel beams. The challenge, we are told, is that we must go through the dense structure blindfolded. As we stand in defeat in front of the problem, we find that we can't reach the center and get our reward. Similarly, the photons of light are even less likely to reach the photosynthesizing core than we can reach the center of this massive structure. This is because the plant makes up trillions of atoms of thickness in length, width, height, and depth. The radical paradox is that plants can efficiently draw and make those light particles reach the center to create their own food. They grow and prosper. How? The double slit experiment proved that particles can predict they will be observed and that, as such, they will behave and decide to travel to the past and act as expected by the plant's intention. The laws of physics at a quantum level allow this to take place with perfect efficiency based on the decision and focus of the plant's consciousness. Simply put, the focused observation of the plant is to produce food using the photosynthesizing core. The plant's focus and decision make the photons collide with themselves to become wave particles. This phenomenon is called quantum superposition. In essence, the plant takes the photons defined by time and space and turns them into wave particles. Imagine you being multiplied by the trillions of possible routes in this massive structure of beams standing in front of you. Then imagine taking each possible route simultaneously until the shortest, quickest way is found. Remember that photons of light cannot consciously decide to swerve between beams, but blindly the light collapses against the particles that make up the plants. Similarly, hitting every possible beam must be fully accounted for. Finally, from all the possible routes one could take, the successful one does reach the center and grabs the prize. The plant collapses all the trillions of possible routes the particle could take that did not reach the center, and therefore observes the only one that reaches the center, becoming the only possibility. It becomes the only choice because the plant's focus and decision make it happen. In an instant, the trillions of possible superpositions defined and allowed by the duality of particles must take place. All decisions and routes must take place simultaneously and are calculated instantly until the only favorable choice occurs. The information or choice travels back in time and becomes the single and only possible observation in time and space. The double slit experiment allows information to travel back in time and create a different outcome. This miracle was observed when scientists decided to observe the wave particles hitting the second wall at the last instant before hitting the wall. What they observed was mind-blowing and confusing. What they saw was no longer an interference pattern, but a defined pattern. The particles went back in time and decided to go through both slits, just as particles with solid properties do. This concept may be hard to comprehend fully, but it is described here to establish that failure only happens because we decide to observe failure. Our human consciousness is more powerful than any plant. We can focus our minds on the outcome of our success, and that dream or goal must become the only choice. Quantum superposition does not mean for you to experience what seems an insurmountable number of routes on your way to success, but that you will experience the only path to your desired result. Quantum superposition allows for particles to also tunnel through impossible structures. This concept suggests that your final vision, your dream of your ideal life, already is. This is because you are changing the interference pattern to a defined pattern by observing and choosing your desired future. The universe fills in the gap of energy missing between the now you and the future you already envision. Your job is to focus on that defined pattern or vision without changing your mind. The universe then goes to work to move you in your chosen direction. you literally begin to tunnel to what seems an insurmountable amount of obstacles and impossible tasks. But the universe qualifies you to superposition your energy by collapsing all potential experiences to have you experience the only one required for you to have what you desire. Tying it all together, the 4 principles of science. We must clearly define all these laws and bring them down to defined principles for life. We can call them the quantum code for life's principles for success. Consider strongly learning these principles verbatim. Write them down and speak them out loud. Developing the proper neural pathways to ingrain this knowledge will expedite your process and help you hack the law of attraction to manifest your desires. Consider that just like you are consciously and subconsciously aware of the law of gravity, in the same manner, these laws must become ingrained in your reactive nature. In the same way that as babies, we learn to be careful when learning to walk, for we became hyper aware of the law of gravity, then the pain we experienced imprinted heavily what was going on and taught us to respect the law of gravity for what it was. Our body and mind then forced us to adapt and respect this force, actuating our experience. So to emphasize, the known visible universe of particles is described and governed by the following foundational principles. Principle number 1. Everything is energy, frequency, or vibration. Everything in the known universe is a collection of energy vibrating at different frequencies, and each thing is collectively and individually putting out its unique and distinct frequency. Principles of vibration are confirmed at every level of possible and known observation, from the macrocosmic observation to the microcosmic observation of the known universe. Principle number 2. Everything in the universe exists in a state of duality, also known as particle-wave duality. It is one of the basics of quantum physics. Energy exists as both particles with particle-like qualities, defined in time and space, and wave-like frequencies with wave-like properties not defined in time and space. With wave-like properties not defined in time and space. Thus, we, as people and human beings, also live in a state of vibrational duality. The scientific evidence also suggests that the observer collapses the particle's wave function, thus establishing the particle precisely in what seems to be a place in time and space. The double-slit experiment, quantum entanglement, the uncertainty principle, and quantum tunneling explain all this. Principle number 3. Since we also live in a state of particle-wave duality, our brain also exists in a state of particle-wave duality. Then it is conclusive that our brains transmit and receive energy, frequency, and vibration based on our command. Other brains also pick up our transmission of energy. Also, our brain's transmission of frequency affects physical matter. Simply put, we can create a transmission or broadcast from what already exists, and we can create a frequency based on what has not come into existence. The previous statement will continue to be developed throughout. Principle number 4. Everything in the universe is governed by magnetic forces of attraction. The law of gravity says what goes up must come down, for it is always a constant. Then, in the same manner, the law of magnetic attraction says that frequencies or vibrations that are alike or in communication attract and pull each other. Yes, the law of magnetic attraction is also a constant. that similar or identical energy is drawn to the same frequencies. The law of attraction also says contrasting frequencies will repel and create resistance or dissonance. The heavier the polarity between frequencies, the more violently the universe will rebel and force a separation. The universe will anticipate before conscious efforts may and will go as far as to cause chaos and pain among the parties involved. Keep these principles at the forefront of your experience. They will help you to become hyper aware of your reality and how you are made in a way that affects the fabric of space. How can you become more hyper aware and effective at hacking the law of attraction to make what you want happen at record speed? Reread this book when you are done with it. Read it perpetually. Also, go on Amazon and buy my other 2 more comprehensive books. Read them in the following order: Blueprint for Immortality, The Quantum Code for Life Secrets to Success, and Life is a Game, The Quantum Code for Life's Principles for Success. These books are designed to help you experience delight in what life offers. It will help you contribute your unique ideas to the world and bring forth personal excellence. They will help you define clearly and to establish moral excellence. It will equip you to strive for the highest ethical principles and virtues. It will also teach you to quantify your inherent abilities and gifts to create a safe, loving, and powerful world around you. Their content and lessons will make sure to give you the competence to recreate your life where you feel value and reassured as you create a safe and bountiful life via vibration and frequency.